X-Huff. Welcome everybody. I'm not even sure if I'm actually live. Let's see. Anything? Facebook coming around. There we go. We're in. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. By the way, happy America Day to all Americans. America, fuck yeah. I always feel like there's a lot of shenanigans here going on. Quick little announcement for those of you guys. I'm working on version 2.0 of the book, and I wanted to make some more detailed concepts, especially something we've been working on last few months, is doing what I call less but better agency lead generation. You guys may have saw a training in the group on that or on the YouTube channel. But working specifically at making it so like you can actually like accomplish far more by doing actually a lot less, by just identifying the right people and putting killer messages and killer offers in front of them. Like I said, it's not unusual for us to contact 5 people, get 3 of them. We actually only reached out to 1 whale client last month, and we're 1 for 1, right? So, and this is really, really huge, by the way. We've been actually working that on the mastermind for those of you guys who are interested in that as well, is helping people really just go after bigger deals. Because what ends up happening is, like, if you have 8 small clients, it's just as much work as a single client who has 8 locations. What's up, Eddie? When a single client has 8 locations, it pays the same, but the beautiful thing is you only have 1 client to deal with, and often if you're in a partnership relationship, you don't have all the reports and meetings because they're too busy anyway. So like it's a secret hack where you can have like 1 client who's the size of 8 and just be doing way more with the yeah, Hetty, what would you like to know about the sales conversation specifically? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Finn proudly brings you a weekly Q&A. All right, our man Keith is up first. Keith says, can I get some opinions for Facebook advertising? I'm going to run some Facebook ads for a local business that does garage floor coatings. I took some training that said the images need to be loosely related, but don't have to be directly related. They should be slightly jarring to get attention. You cover the details in the ad and or the landing page. To that end, there are 3 versions of an image I'm considering for the ads. They're not before and after, though they're supposed to look a bit like they are. Instead, they're intended on creating an exaggerated contrast. I will, of course, do A/B testing, but wanted some free input first. Which do you like better, top, middle, bottom? Which gets your attention and or interest? Or you hate the concept altogether? Keith, this is my experience, and I never want to tell you, like, ever, that there's only one way to be successful. By the way, guys, I'm so tired from my kids just being fuckers. We got people visiting, too. So here's the deal with images. I've tried a lot of stuff on Facebook images. I actually, like, for, like, a 6 to 12-month period, I tested photos of, like, cats and dogs and animals. I tested babies. I tested stock footage. And of all the things I ever tested, I think a lot of people optimized for the wrong variable. And the most important variable is you actually need to understand which image works best for the whole system. And the whole point of the system is to make sales, right? Like to actually get clients and to turn that into repeat business, to get customers for them. And so I think a lot of things that actually get the most attention or the cutest and things, like they look better if you only look at that one little variable where you're like, oh, my click-through rate is higher. But ultimately, they don't lead to higher sales, so that's an important thing. And I found nothing that works better than what I call a dramatic demonstration. I've done a training here in the group, also on the YouTube channel. I'll link to it again for those of you guys just to be able to grab it easily. But here's the deal with dramatic demonstrations. Let's see if I can actually just copy and paste that into the comments right now. They make it so like people can see like visually what it is they're actually buying from you, and if you do that, you'll make your life so much easier. So I'm going to go ahead and just post that right now. We'll post a link in the comments. So the deal with dramatic demonstrations is you can only do 3 things. You can show the problem, or I should say the symptom, because people don't understand the deeper problem. You can show what it looks like after, or you can show them together, before and after. So you hinted at before and after. That's going to be your best converting thing, is seeing what it looks like before and after. And the more you can show like somebody actually doing that, the better it's going to be. So that's my best advice for Facebook ads, is don't optimize for click-through rate, optimize for the whole process and sales, and dramatic demonstrations are the best way I've ever found to do that. Dineth, how do you request client images, video files, and tools? This is a two-part answer, my friend. Number one is I usually just use the simplest stuff, Google Drive or Dropbox if they're a Dropbox user. So like a deeper concept that will make your life easier is, and I wrote about this in version 2.0 of the book, so you guys are going to get some really deep stuff on that, is understanding we want to do stuff in our agency where we do work once and get paid twice or 3 times or 4 times, 5 times, over and over. And so your question kind of implies that you're probably doing custom work, meaning that every client has to send images. You're probably doing some web design or something like that. And what ends up happening if you're doing that, every single client you're reinventing the wheel for. And a lot of times we think it's because clients want all these big custom solutions, like clients want a custom website. Not so, by the way. You'd be amazed at if you design one website, how many times you can sell that exact same website to other clients in different places and just update basic things. And if you do that, you'll make your life so much easier because there's less information to get from the client, and you're selling more of the result that you're creating, which is the finished website or whatever the finished product is in your case, and less about like the steps to get there. And then you don't have to do all this custom work. And then because of it, you won't need to collect but I'll tell you, as a general rule, the less you can ask from clients, the better, and the more you can lay out the expectations of what's to come next, the better. Those two things go hand in hand. I've seen people's onboarding process where they have like 20 questions and a 30-point questionnaire. To be honest, that just annoys the shit out of clients. The less you can ask them to do. So I'll give you a real life example. Like we were setting up, or I mean we still are, we're setting up like massive retargeting campaigns for clients. And one of the things we found out is with these massive retargeting campaigns, it's a lot of work to get access to clients' accounts and all those things, and just to like be able to get into their system. And so we found a tool called Leadsy. A lot of other agencies use it, but I didn't know about it. And it allows you just with a couple clicks to be able to access. And so, it was a lot easier just to send a client a link. They click approve, approve, approve. We're in their system, and that's it, right? Then to try and explain to them how to give us access to our Facebook ads and all those different things. So as a general rule, like what you want to focus on, the best onboarding funnels is whatever information you need from the client, think about the most simple and streamlined way to get it where it's easy for the client, and then go heavy on really what I would say 2 things is welcoming them in style and then setting the expectations for what's to come next. Because you'd be amazed at how much expectations actually affect like how long people stay and their perception of results. I actually can remember one of my friends owns like the biggest ad agency in Europe, or at least the biggest Facebook ad agency in Europe. And one of the things he was doing for years is he kept trying hiring better and better media buyers, and they got like better and better results for their clients. And he automatically assumed like if you get better clients and better results, like people are just going to stay forever. And he had the same complaints when he was getting better results as when he was getting lower results. And it took him a while to clue in that it was actually expectations, because some clients think like they're just going to be overnight rich, or like, hey, I spent $80 on Facebook ads, why am I not a millionaire, kind of thing. And when you understand it's about like having them have a clear picture of what's to come next, and it's really those 4 things: results, time, cost, and communication. If you're clear and specific in those things, like, hey, here's the result we're going to get. We're going to get $10 webinar registration. Here's the time. It's going to take us 30 days to do it. Here's the cost. We're going to spend $800 on your Facebook ads, or whatever the number is. Communication. I'm going to reach out to you after a week to let you know the ads are running and how we're doing. I'll reach out to you after 2 weeks and 3 weeks and 4 weeks. I'm going to send you a report that looks like this. The more you can like take the ambiguity and the mystery out of it, the more clients will trust you and just leave you alone and let you do your thing. So that should help. Hetty, I don't know if you had a specific question. You said, can you talk about the sales conversation? I'll give you a short version of that, which is I found like, so in our agency now, like we close all our stuff over chat. Like I just don't do phone calls anymore. I don't even have time to do phone calls, and I don't want to deal with salespeople and stuff like that anymore. I'm past a point in my agency where I want to deal with salespeople. that make the sales conversation go, and it's not what most people think it is. Thing number one is that you hit on a meaningful symptom or problem that the client is experiencing now and actually wants to solve. If you miss that, then you're automatically fighting like an uphill battle. Right, like, and we don't always. This is often different than we think it is. Like, cause, like, I'll give you an example. Like, a lot of people go to dentists and say, "I'm going to get you more patients." If you know anything about dentists, they have constant neck and back pain from bending over people's mouths. People hate the dentist, so like they don't wake up in the middle of the day and say, "What I really want is more patients." They actually want less dentisting, not more. So if you hit on a painful symptom like, does your neck and back hurt all the time? Well, I figured out a way to do higher value work so you can work less and do less dentisting. That's actually more appealing than like, I'm just going to get you more. So a lot of times we assume they just want more. But if you actually hit on the real symptom, this is just a research thing talking to clients, it'll move sales conversations. The second thing is you got to have a 3 to 5 step plan. And this is the biggest thing I see missing from most marketing stuff, especially in like high ticket sales. Like if you're selling a $7 pair of socks, they don't need a plan for how it's going to warm your feet. But if you're planning to solve like a real world problem, they need to see how it's logical and real. Like if I say to you, I'm going to give you $100,000, you probably want the $100,000, but you need like some kind of, what are the steps to get that $100,000 so it's believable. And believe it or not, a lot of the scammers do this really well, where they say, I just inherited a bunch of money and I'm going to pay you gold. Like that's a 3 to 5 step plan. So you want to do it like a real version of it in a high level, like a airplane 30,000 foot view. And I'll give you an example of one of ours that we used for a lot of years in our motorcycle stuff. It said you can target motorcycle riders on Facebook with these 3 interests. So we show them the interest. Then we say we can run a little motorcycle ad that offers them a free book. The ad looks like this. We drive them to a page that looks like this, and we offer them a motorcycle book download, which we license to you. They get the book, and then we have like a year's worth of emails. We follow up about motorcycle cases and answering questions, and every single email ends with an invite to come work with you. That's how we're able to get motorcycle cases. So you need like that 3 to 4 step believable plan to like get people to do that. If you do that, like most of your sales will be downhill. If you hit the right symptom and you hit the plan to solve it, like most of your sales are going to be automatic from that point, in my experience. So like really nail those 2 things. Mariz says, help, Facebook just put my ad account restricted, no violation whatsoever. Anyone experienced this? Any suggestion how to fix it? Contacted Facebook support. They said it will take at least 5 days. Yeah, Mariz, I'm going to give you a short answer. Is appeal is the short-term answer. The long-term answer is diversify off of Facebook. And this is why, like, for years and years and years, you got to have your own email list that you control. Because you can be shut down from Facebook, you can be shut down from YouTube. Email list, you own, right? So you want to have those. So I have an email list like for you guys, and I also have a YouTube and a Facebook, but there's a reason why I drive all that back to my email list, and it's not like so I can just like write a bunch of emails to you, but it's more so because if anything were to happen, like if my YouTube get banned or my Facebook group gets kicked off, I still have the email list, and I can say, hey guys, we've moved over here, right? So there'll be a way for people to follow you later, and that's the power of having an email list. So you want to, like, long term, always be converting traffic into relationships and assets that you control, and you'll make your life a whole lot easier. Our man Akshay, man, how you been, brother? I see you guys traveling in Bali, and that looks amazing. Hi, gang, he says, for contacts. Our B2B podcast service for clients is missing a quick win. We were thinking of running an invite to a podcast for past clients that didn't convert or were great clients but are not working together right now. How does this sound? To make it simpler, we were thinking of a one-question podcast, NanoCast, so we can do it for the client and engage them quickly. Do you see any pushback on reactivating campaigns in B2B? When you get pushback on things like that, actually, like almost always, it's because the relationship isn't there. Like for example, like if I have a restaurant email list and people have eaten at that restaurant and had a shitty experience, like imagine they had terrible food and the wait times were long and it was overpriced and whatever, right? Like they had a bad experience. Like, what email am I going to write that's going to want to make people come back? So the only pushback you ever get, by the way, usually has to do with the relationship with the list and 0% to do with you and your offer. So when you understand that, like that's the biggest thing I'm trying to find out right away is the relationship to the list. And so I start with the lowest hanging fruit. The lowest hanging fruit's always going to be existing customers, just offering them one more thing. If they don't have that, you can go to past customers, and if they don't have that, you can go to people who almost bought. But that's like basically my kind of process. Is I look at who's like actually given them money most recently, and then who actually has given them money in the past, and then I go back one level farther if I don't have that, and who's almost given them money and is about to. Matt, dude, I saw you rocking out like on stage the other day. Like, dude, I actually want to hear your guitar stuff because I've been playing 20 years myself, so I don't know if you can see my guitar over in the corner of the room. We got a little acoustic bad boy over there. There we go. My office, and got another one over here. I guess I can't turn my computer that far, but you'll have to take my word for it. I don't necessarily know what you mean when you say SDR strategy. Maybe you could elaborate. Basics plan to pay them. So maybe you could just elaborate. That's probably an acronym I should know, but I don't offhand. So help me out with that one, brother. Callan says, I'm going to answer another question, and you can go ahead and type that in the meantime. Callan says, what do you guys charge for your white label services? We offer our WordPress sites at a flat rate of $800, and it seems to work super well with a few of our clients that bring us a steady stream of work, 6 to 8 months. I know we could charge more, but it's nice just to have the work come directly to us, and $800 makes it very digestible to our clients. Should it be higher? Curious what your experience has been. Callan, here's the deal with that is like, white label, prices are always reflective of like the value being provided, and people don't understand value is typically more a function of, I call it the double who you're doing it for and who you bring to your clients. So for example, if I make a website for like a single lawyer who's by himself, like he's probably not going to have a huge budget for it. He might pay like $5,000 max, but probably more like $1,000 or $2,000, probably more typical, maybe even $500 on the low end. That's going to be normal for like a single lawyer. If I'm building a website for like a 50-person law firm and there's lots of updates and changes, it would be unusual if it wasn't like $10,000 to $40,000, probably in that range, and probably more likely on the higher side of that, even as high as like $100,000 for that kind of website. And so like one of the things you can do is if you want to like make your website pricing go up, just go after bigger deals. It's such a simple thing, but most people don't do it. And the second who is like a website is a hammer, right? Like there's a lot of different things you can use a hammer for. And so one of the things is the hammer is like what like result you help them create with the website changes the value. So like I found this out when I did plastic surgery. If you just made a website for a plastic surgeon, that's one price. If you made a website for a plastic surgeon about their most expensive service and helped like push their most expensive thing, which for them was like mommy makeover and nose jobs and facelifts, but in every niche there's something like really expensive. But if you did that, your website suddenly got more valuable, right? Because it helped them sell their most valuable thing. So there's a lot of ways to play with that, but like one of those is just going after bigger deals. I would tell you if $800 is working for you, stay there, but maybe like the key to make that work is like, to me, is like if you have SEO or Facebook ads or something like that, the easiest take rate you're going to get is for an $800 recurring. So if you have like a social media add-on or a TikTok add-on or something like that, you can go from $800 to one time to $800 ongoing. And I'll tell you what I used to love about white label deals when you do them correctly is exactly what you just described, because I didn't have to ever sell my own shit. Like those people went out and sold it for me. I would like for years I just got messages in my inbox. We signed another client today. Here's their info. Let's get started. Can you give me a call just to sort some details? And I would sign 3 to 5 clients a week without ever doing a sales call if you do those white label deals correctly. But I'll tell you, if you're just getting paid $800 one time, the real opportunity is to transition it into $800 recurring. All right, Matt, we got the part 2. He says sales development rep. Okay, sales development rep strategy. Basics plan to pay them. I'll give you a 2-part for that, Matt. Like, first of all, like we don't actually use salespeople in our agency anymore because now, like we sell through videos, and so there's no need. Just close over a text message or two. I do sometimes train people to do the text messaging stuff, and we usually pay them $20 an hour, and that's it. And they might get like a $50 bonus. And usually we hire copywriters who are like, have some like kind of sales familiarity. As far as like actually developing sales rep, what I've found is there's 2 things you're looking for in a sales rep. One is, can they actually close people? Because obviously if they can't close people, like you're not going to get anywhere, you're not going to get very far. And the second thing is, do they sell people in like an ethical way, meaning like are expectations in line with reality? Because I've had salespeople who will sell my stuff, but they'll promise the moon and another trip back and around the sun, and then of course the client is expecting an overnight miracle, and you can't actually deliver on that. So even though you sold a client, they're just going to leave unhappy. So those are the two things. So I generally don't train salespeople. What I do is, when I'm bringing them in, is we give them like 5 to 10 calls to just see how they're doing. And I'm looking for those two things. Can they close people? Are they giving like people like the real scoop of what to expect on the other side? Or are they making like pie in the sky kind of moon promises? And that's the best way to bring them in. As far as like compensation package, typically like 10 to 20% is the industry standard. And I'll tell you, this is just my experience. I like to pay my good salespeople more than that. I don't dip into the ongoing revenue, but I go usually as high as 50% of the first month. So if you got like a $2,000 a month package, I'll pay them $1,000. I'm okay with doing that because I know I make all my money in month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, especially if you have good retention on those things. But it depends, I guess, a little bit as well. Are they doing the outbound themselves and actually generating the deals, or are they doing the inbound? It's really up to you, but I like to keep really good salespeople, so I tend to pay them a higher commission than normal, but just up front, and then not do anything ongoing. Then as far as like maintaining them, what I found is a lot of salespeople, like the most useful thing you can do to train them and get up to speed is record sales calls, and when you have successful ones, like archive those, and that's your training. Like rather than trying to tell people what to do. So like we actually have in our mastermind, like there's not a ton of them, but we have a few successful sales calls. If you want, send me a private message and I'll send you a few if you're interested in those. But you can listen to a sales call, and once you hear like a successful sales call like done correctly, and you hear the close, and you hear the calmness, and you hear how they present price, and you hear how they handle an objection or two, and then you go, oh, okay, I get it. I see what we're doing now. Then like that's the best training in the world. So like how I train them and develop them is like, and then the other thing is, nobody will tell you this, but salespeople have like ups and downs, like emotionally, not just in terms of like results. And what I found is when salespeople have like bad days, man, like they're writing out their own suicide note, and when they're having good days, they think they're the greatest thing in the world. And so, like, if a salesperson goes, like, 8 out of 10, they'll tell you, like, they're the greatest salesperson on earth. And if they go 0 for 5, they, like, for real, they write the suicide note. So there's an element of salespeople where you have to, like, when they get really high, you have to remind them, like, keep going back to the basics every call. Like, follow the structure, follow the system, follow the process. Don't get too high on your own supply. You start new every single sales call. And then the opposite is true, and they're like, oh my God, I'm in a rut, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong, and nobody's buying, and I'm terrible. Like, you got to talk them off the ledge, which is one of the many reasons I don't use salespeople anymore. Those are the basics. It's like, give them 5 to 10 practice calls, or I shouldn't say practice, but like, give them 5 to 10 calls. Pay them anywhere from to 10 to 50% on the high side if you want to go like me, and then have them listen to recordings of calls done correctly, and then you got to motivate them a little bit. You got to hype them up and like just talk them down from the ledge because you know, not everybody's made for entrepreneurship. There's lots of ups and downs to this, but that's what's worked for us as far as developing salespeople. I'm not saying that's the only way, but you know, we've had a lot of salespeople, and you know, some good ones and some duds. But that process has enabled us to really figure out as quickly as possible who's a good fit for us and who can actually sell. So I hope that's helpful, my friend. Dawood, we helped the company go from an average of $12,000 per month to $83,000 per month, but now it seems like the owner is struggling to have enough workers to fulfill appointments, and leads are going to waste. We had over 300 plus leads last month and only booked 80. A lot just stayed in the CRM and went to waste. How would you consult your client on what to do to be able to keep his company growing, as he's only been in business for a year and a half? We had to cut marketing budget 10 days to June for this month because it was more than what they were able to handle. Any advice on what you would do to help providing either a paid service or even free to make sure everything gets running smooth to be able to help growing? It's a moving company. Firstly, Dawood, my friend, awesome job on like really blowing up your client and making it like so that they're kicking ass and, you know, taking names. I'm going to give you a counterintuitive solution. There's a few solutions to that problem. Okay, one of those is, and this is the one I don't recommend, but is you can help your client with those delivery issues. So it sounds to me like really obvious they need good help. They need like people they can outsource to. In other words, good employees. And good employees is just a marketing process. It's like advertise, follow up with the leads, schedule calls, screen people, give them a trial. It's the same basic process. Once you learn that, it becomes a lot easier to get good people. But my counterintuitive solution for you is just to work with bigger clients. And this is one of the things I've helped a few people do in our mastermind. So if I'm like working with like a single personal injury lawyer, and there's nothing wrong with those guys, they're cool, but they don't usually make good business partners for all the reasons you just described. Because the pendulum goes both ways. But on the high end of the spectrum is if you inundate them with work, they're going to tell you to take your foot off the gas and stop everything you're doing. And they'll say, slow down, I'm drowning in work. And the low end of it is they'll be really freaked out about advertising and spend their money and lose it, or be worried about losing money. And so what ends up happening is it doesn't give you a lot of leeway. And one of the simplest things that I've encouraged people to do for years in our mastermind is just like go after like 30, 40, 50 like companies with that many crews or more. So in your case, like rather than go for a moving company that's just like a guy who's been in business for a year and a half, not that there's anything wrong with those, but they don't like always make good partners, is look for somebody who does it like statewide and has like 30 different people. And I would just show them a case study of how you've blown up somebody else and say like, I would love to keep all your moving crews busy and active with work. And what you'll find is they're a lot more able to handle the scale that you bring them, and so therefore you'll be paid more and you won't have to get into all their delivery issues and things like that. So it's a little bit of a counterintuitive solution, but my simple like rule of thumb for this, is if the owner actually does the thing in the business like as like a main job. So if I'm like dealing with a roofer and they spend most of their day on the roof, or if I'm dealing with a lawyer and they spend the most of the day being a lawyer, or if I'm dealing with whatever kind of business and it's like a one person thing, if like they don't already have staff and employees, I just don't work with them. And there's nothing wrong with those people inherently, but they don't like make good business partners because they're usually a little skittish on advertising, and they don't know how to handle the growth. So I look for companies that have already grown to a certain point and can handle that. And I would rather have less like high end really good clients than more like low end people that like can kind of, for lack of a better term, drive you fucking crazy. Matt, where do you get the high quality leads that you can actually close with text and Loom? A lot of places. I'll give you the kind of basic layout of it, Matt. So part of it is I have a concept that I don't know if you've heard me talk about before, but I call it the shoe buyer's concept. And the shoe buyer's concept is something I learned from marketing legend Dan Kennedy, that I kind of like. The shoe buyers is like my metaphor version of it. But like if you imagine your marketing service as selling shoes, what most people do is they look for somebody who essentially needs shoes, right? Somebody who's barefoot. It makes logical sense. Like the actual last person, they went to a moving company. That moving company really needed to grow. And so they went to that person. They said, hey, you're barefoot and you need shoes. And what we actually want to do is focus on the people who are actually actively spending money today now, which means we actually want to look for somebody who has 200 pairs of shoes in their closet. And this is very counterintuitive because a lot of times these are bigger businesses, they're spending a lot of money, and we often think like, well, what would I add to them? Like they already seem to have it figured out. And I'll tell you just from running business for like, 15 years, the problems never end. So there's always problems, and there's always reasons they need another pair of shoes, right? Like it may be like, oh, I need shoes for tennis, or I need hiking shoes, or my basketball shoes just ripped apart, and I need like a new pair of shoes. Like so there's a lot of reasons why they need another pair of shoes. Maybe they're having a wedding and they need like, fancy dress shoes or dance shoes, right? So there's always a reason why they need more shoes, and you can add on to their structure. But this is so counterintuitive from how we normally think about it. And if you spend a lot of time just going after people, so my number one thing is I look for at least a couple of signs that they're spending money today. There's 7 different ways you can target them, but I look for some of the basics. Like, one is like, okay, so are they following other industry experts and gurus? Do they read materials like about growing? Are they in any communities about growing? Do they belong to any associations? Do they have software and tools? Do they go to events? And so I use all of those things as targeting, both organically and in ads. So I'll give you a simple example. For like the last 2 months, we were running ads in front of a little rinky-dink YouTube channel called Needles Case Management. Now, Needles Case Management is a CRM for lawyers. It helps them like manage big case files and stuff like that. And it's a place to store all their stuff. Now, little law firms don't need case management software because they don't have enough clients to need case. But the big law firms have to enter in every lead and CRM and follow up with people. And so when I advertise on YouTube in front of the videos on Needles, it's not a huge channel with a lot of volume, but like nobody's just going to watch like Needles videos randomly. It's big shot lawyers, right? And so I don't have to actually, I can spend less than $100 a month and get in front of all those people. So that's kind of like the first step is like, they've done 100 years of direct mail testing, and 60% of the success of your campaign just simply comes down to who you target as clients. And so that's my way of saying, like, go after the shoe buyers, go after the shoe buyers, go after the shoe buyers. So if they're not spending money today, I don't try to convince them. I only approach businesses that I know are spending money, and therefore I know they have budgets. So that alone will make your prospecting easier because you'll stop trying to convince people to put on shoes. And it's counterintuitive because, like, if I'm dealing with a lawyer who for like 30 or 40 years has grown his business by referrals, even though he needs shoes, like it would blow his business up, like with some ads, he thinks, why do I need shoes? I've grown 30, 40 years without shoes. Like, I'm happy barefoot, right? So rather than trying to convince those people, that's like a huge first step. Second thing is really like is our offer. And our offer is like really like three things, which is I make it small, I make it specific, and I make it add-on. And if you do those three things, then you don't need a phone call to sell it. Because first of all, like one of the reasons people need phone calls is because their ask is big. And so I approach them like for like a first date kind of small miniaturized version of the thing I'm doing. And that's also for me because I want to feel out a client, even though it's easier to get a yes. And so I just simply sell my big thing on step 2. And a lot of times if they're a pain in the ass client on the small thing, I just don't offer them step 2. It's a lot easier to let a bad client go after a first date. When it's specific, and ideally I take the specificity all the way to the level of something specific for them. So like one of the big whales I reached out to last month was Perry Marshall. Some of you guys will know him. He's like the AdWords guy, like wrote the Bible on Google AdWords. And I specifically said, like, I want to sell your Google Ads Mastery course as like a high-level affiliate, right? That's pretty damn specific. It's like, I want to sell this course, right? So when we're reaching out to people, like, we're super, super specific. And then the third thing, and not a lot of people think about this, is when you add on versus replace. So like an example of this is like if you're running Facebook ads and you come in to try to sell Facebook ads to somebody else who's running Facebook ads, they have to replace somebody. They have to fire them. They have to kick them out of the account. In other words, like a lot of things they probably don't want to do. But if you add on, meaning like you take their structure and go, this bolts on to kind of like what you're doing, they don't have to replace anyone. So like a good example of that is the Facebook Messenger bots. Hey, you're running Facebook ads and it seems like you guys are doing well. If we added a Messenger bot, add on a Messenger bot, let me hear that phrase, add on, it'll work even better. So when it comes down to the offer, we're doing those three things. We're being specific, we're asking for something small, and we're adding on. And if you do those, you don't need a big meeting and a powwow. So like I can just send a letter in the mail, 1 page long, reach out to somebody specific, and I do this often. By the way, it costs $1 to send a letter in click-to-mail, and if you send 5 of these and they're targeted enough and specific enough, you'll like for sure get at least one client from 5 letters. I mean, it might take a little practice to get to that point, but I reach out to people who are spending money, I offer them something clear and specific that adds on and make it like, relatively risk-free, and that's basically it. That's how we're able to sell with text messages and looms and don't have these big long discussions. Where people need like big long discussions is I see this all the time. Like I know a guy, for example, in our group, really, really smart, brilliant fucking dude. And one of the things he was telling me he was doing is he was running a YouTube ad for general contractors, and he shows like a case study. So here's like a result. I brought somebody else. The ad's like 4 minutes long, and then the offer is come work with me for a year and pay me for a year to do this thing, or pay me monthly for a long time. And that's a big ask, right? Like, even if I like you, I only heard about you 4 minutes ago on YouTube, and yeah, your case study looks cool, but I don't know if I want to work with you for the next year. And if he's running I don't know for sure, but if he's running an ad system they're already doing, for example, if he's using AdWords and they're already using AdWords, that's a replacement, so there's a clash right there. And so that's when they say, let's jump on the phone, let's talk about it. They want to feel you out, they want to hear a proposal and all those kind of things. But if it's more just like, hey, I just got a little campaign and I want to bring you 10 leads and we'll know from the 10 leads whether or not we should keep going. I want to bring you specifically these 10 kind of leads, it'll cost about this much, what do you think? you'll get a client from that. So it's the whole process. It's like we're targeting buyers, we're making them an irresistible offer, and then because of that, it's like you don't need all the extra added pieces. The combination of those two things, I'd say, is 90% of it. Target the right people. And to give you an idea of how important this is, like just the targeting, I'm probably rambling a little bit, but it's good for other people, is, I made this point in one of the workshops we did, is how important the targeting is. Like, imagine, for example, your offer is barbecue pork ribs. Just go with me for a second on this. And you got dispatched to the Jewish Vegetarian Conference, and you're selling barbecue pork ribs. Like, what kind of copy, what kind of offer can you make to sell that? And the answer is none, right? Because these people don't eat pork, and they don't eat meat at all, but especially not pork, right? So there's no offer you can make to the wrong audience that will get them over the hill. And I see so many agency owners struggle because they're simply just making offers to the wrong fucking people. And so, like, if you make offers to the wrong people, you create this unnecessary uphill battle. So a big part of what we're doing, the Less But Better, is just identifying people who make for good clients in the first place. And then after that, then leading into it. But for example, just taking this idea a little further, and I'll answer your next question here. But for example, if our offer is barbecue pork ribs, and we go sell it at the Alabama football game, how do you think we'll do? And I think you probably fucking crush it, right? Like, you probably have a line like around the corner and around the stadium of 10,000 people. So that's how important it is to get your offer to match up to the right audience and the right person, because otherwise you end up selling the Jewish vegetarians barbecue pork ribs, and it just doesn't work, right? So I always behaviorally make sure they're the right people. Now, as far as pricing, small intro offers, really, really simple is I actually start backwards. So a few people have told me, for example, in the agency space, their goal is to get to $20,000 a month. Okay, so let's say, for example, you got a $2,000 a month marriage offer. Then that's basic math. You're going to need 10 clients, right? So if you want to get to your $20,000 a month goal in those numbers, and you need 10 clients for it, then what I do is I price my thing. My small thing, so that it automatically leads into my big thing. And this has actually been modeled for years, so this is not something you have to reinvent. And the two biggest companies who do this, or the two biggest industries that do this, are car companies and insurance companies, right? If you think about how they sell a car, they don't say, come in here and give us $45,000, which is the full price of the car. They say, just $1,000 down and $250 a month, right? As long as you can afford $1,000 down and $250 a month, come do it, right? Because people are a lot more focused on their monthly payment, and often they're not focused on how long those payments are. So what I do typically when I'm pricing a first date offer is, if I want to get to $2,000 a month, and let's say my first date realistically takes about a week to execute, then I want to price it so that number leads into it. So I might price my first date at $600 or $700, somewhere $500 to $700, and just move the needle for them and produce a small but meaningful result. And then what ends up happening is, let's say we did it at 600, we'll just make the number 600, is I say, well, you just paid me $600 one time for a week, and we produced this result. I would love to do this for you every week and produce more on long-term, more sustainable goals for you, and we can give you that for every week. How about you just keep paying me $600? In fact, matter of fact, that works out to about $2,400 a month. I can save you $400 and just make it an even $2,000. How does that sound to you? And so the biggest take rate, and they found that this from 100 years of direct mail testing, is if you sold a product for $79, like a newsletter, and you wanted people to get into a subscription model, the easiest way to go from single pay to subscription is it at the exact price they paid once. So if they paid you $79 one time, the easiest take rate was at $79 ongoing. And so that's how I price my first date, is I just price it so the easy first thing, let's just keep going at that price. And then all of a sudden they're in a $2,000 a month thing, $3,000 a month thing, and it's like a general thing. I'm not saying that's the only way you can price a first date. The most important thing with the first date is that you're engineering a small but meaningful result for them, and that they're seeing the benefit of that. But if you do that, what you'll find is, it's really about the first date that actually sells the marriage. And what happens is, when you try and sell somebody a 12-month package who just heard about you 4 minutes ago on a YouTube ad. The missing element from all of that makes it really hard to sell that marriage is a simple word called trust. And what happens is if you bring them in for a first date and you move the needle, and a lot of times we forget that if they've been in business 5 or 10 years, there's at least one SEO company who for a year kept saying, I'm going to make you so rich from all the SEO traffic you're going to get, and they never ranked and they never made $1 from it, and they just invested thousands. So their typical experience is like spending money for a long time and not getting any results. If you show up and even just bring them a small but meaningful result, one client, one patient, even if it's just one, like in the first week, that's more than they've used to and experienced. And so what ends up happening is suddenly there's a new element introduced into the relationship called trust. Holy shit, this person said they were going to do something, and they did, right? And so that makes your marriage selling so much easier. And a lot of times people are blown away when I show them my script for selling my marriage offers, because I've sold like $50,000, $100,000 package. You know, like there's nothing like selling a 6-figure package and it's a 4-sentence text message, and people are like, what's the magic of the text message? And it's not the magic of the text message. It's that we had a really good first date, right? So it's like for example, you know, I can think of a client like they wanted to do something to help increase their membership, and I said, hey, like let's do a webinar together, and they sold more on that webinar than they had in like the last like 5 years. So like the marriage offer is really easy. Like, why don't you just pay me every month and we'll just keep doing this? All right, let's do it, right? Like that was it. But it wasn't because the message was brilliant. It was because the webinar sold a whole bunch of shit and went really well. So that's the key with making this work, is you're engineering a solid first date. And then the other part of that nobody talks about is, this is just my experience. If you have 20 clients and 2 of them are like just bad clients, and you like go to sleep at night, and you have to like stress about clients, I'll tell you, the ones you're gonna stress about in your business are the 2 unhappy ones. And it's really hard after like 6 months the client's unhappy to fire them and tell them it's not working out. It's way easier just to notice the signs that they're not a good client for any number of reasons in the first date and not offer them a second date. So it's just as much for me, even though it's an easier sell. The bigger reason I do it is because it's my filtering process for clients. Like if they don't pay me on time, or maybe like their customers are mad at them and they're not treating people well, or maybe they like are difficult to get a result for. Maybe like you just found out it's gonna be harder. So yeah, you can definitely do a reactivation campaign with Go High Level. I have a process like kind of like what I look for first, even before reactivating people. I ask, are there existing clients that are paying them now that we could simply add on something there? So like for example, McDonald's does this brilliantly, right? You go to the drive-thru and you order some shit, right? They could just let you go and then try and reactivate you later. Or they could do what they do and they could say like, do you want to add an apple pie? Do you want to supersize that? Like they give you always like another reason to spend more money. This works in any business. Any business can supersize or add an apple pie. They just don't think to do it. So that's the easiest, lowest hanging fruit, believe it or not. Like, so if, like I use restaurants a lot because it's easy to get your head around. But if you're dealing with a restaurant, it's far easier just to back. If that's not available for different reasons, like sometimes like when I'm dealing with injury lawyers, it's a little difficult to figure out what the supersize thing is. So I will go back and reactivate past clients, but you can definitely do that in Go High Level. But if you want to automate it in Go High Level, I would say it'd be even easier to automate a supersize than it would to get people back. And the reason is, like, when's the easiest time to sell somebody? The minute they got the credit card out, right? Like that's the easiest moment. And the way you do that ethically is just like McDonald's does. Like, hey, we got an extra thing that might be valuable to you. Would you like that as well? So like if somebody comes to a restaurant, it's like, hey, would you like a drink special? Would you like a dessert? Or it might be to come back another time, right? Like, hey, we're having a get together for our most valuable VIP clients this Friday. Would you like to come on Friday? And so I'm not against reactivation campaigns. They work really well, but there's even easier, which is people who are spending money right now with that business to simply add value. The next closest thing are the past clients, and then the next closest thing after that are people who almost bought. But very rarely on a first date will I go past those 3 levels. Like people who are buying now, people who bought from them in the past, or people who almost bought. That's like usually as far as I'll go out on like a first date. And then the marriage offer can be any direction you want to go. Like you can help them generate cold traffic and strangers, but I don't usually do cold traffic offers for first dates because they take longer to work, right? Like it's a lot easier to upsell somebody who's already at the McDonald's drive-thru than it is to try and convince them to try it for the first time. So that's my way of saying your first date does not have to sync up with your marriage, even though logically they should. But I'll tell you, the easiest thing to do is if the first date and the marriage are like the same thing, right? So like we mentioned, the guy selling the 12-month package of I'll generate leads for your general contracting business. What I would do in his shoes, just come up with a little intro package of like 10 leads or something like that. Say, hey, if you guys if you like this, why not just try a little intro package of 10 leads? And of course, if they like the 10 leads, what are they going to buy? More, right? So like I like to design first dates ideally so they lead into more, but there can be a disconnect if you want. You can say, let me run this reactivation campaign, then it works. Then you have trust, and then you can say, well, I next recommend we do SEO or Facebook ads. I can YouTube you for live performance. Awesome, dude. I'm so stoked to hear that. You have no idea. I'm just starting to learn piano myself. So like, and it's actually been amazing. I'm sure you know this as a guitar player. It's like all songs are essentially the same, right? Like, you know, every pop song is the same 4 chords. So I've been playing piano now for like 2 or 3 weeks, and people are amazed that I can play like half dozen songs. And it's not because like I'm a piano master. It's just because 20 years of guitar, I'm like, you know what chords go together and stuff like that. So it's made it a lot easier. So I'm stoked to check it out, brother. I think that's it for all the questions. I appreciate you sharing the good stuff. Just a little reminder for those of you guys who missed the intro. We are doing version 2.0 to the book, and some of the concepts we actually just mentioned, I've gone deeper because everybody always asks me about pricing first dates and how to get in the door and how do you do the loom stuff. So that stuff was not in version 1 of the book. Partly because I've only really started doing this in the last 2 years, and I wrote the book a little over 2 years ago. But we're always innovating and finding easier and more simplistic ways to do it. And so I've made some of the stuff just really, like, frankly, fucking better for you guys. And then for those of you guys who want to take it to the next level, if you're interested in the mastermind, reach out. We did, like I said before, one of the coolest things I'm most proud of in our mastermind is when we help people stop going after the low, like, nobody realizes this until you get into it, but like 80% of the competition in any niche is for the bottom 10%. So like if you think about dentists, there's like 80% of dentists are like in the, like bottom range, and like most of that, or I should say 20% of the dentists that like are in the bottom range, get like, that's all the competition. The big dentist who has 18 locations, there's very few people competing or going after that guy because everybody thinks I'm not ready or he already knows enough and all these different reasons. And one of the things I love helping people do is go after location or businesses that have like so much more upside and room to grow. And then what ends up happening is you can get one client that pays as much as 10, 20 little ones and is way easier to manage because you only got one person. And not only that, you're just doing the same thing for all 20 locations, so you don't even have to reinvent the wheel, and you only have one client to report to. And if you structure it like kind of like we talk about, it's more of a partnership thing. So if you guys are interested in that, reach out. I don't necessarily mention it in the video, but I'll send you some details on the Wolfpack, and I'm happy to have a chat with you and see if it might be fit. If it's not, I always send you good stuff, good parting gifts anyway. I like to leave you guys better off. So that's all I got for you guys. I'm probably going to go lay down. I'm tired. We got peeps visiting. Kids woke me up. Like last 2 nights have been terrible. For those of you guys who have toddlers, you know what I'm talking about. And that's all I got for you guys. May the force be with you.